You're angry about your grocery bill, you blame inflation, you blame Biden, you blame corporations, but nobody is telling you about the real reason. 10 countries, from Russia to Iran to China, just formed the most powerful economic alliance in modern history. They now control 52% of the world's rice, 42% of its wheat, and nearly half of all the oil on the planet. And they have one shared goal: to make the US dollar weaker. A weaker dollar means your groceries cost more. Period. This video will show you exactly how.
Welcome to The Explainer. If you're new around here, what we do is take these massive, seemingly complex global economic stories, strip away all the boring financial jargon, and show you exactly what they mean for everyday Americans. Today's topic is absolutely massive. We are talking about global geopolitics, shifting powers, and incredibly, how an international summit taking place thousands of miles away is directly impacting your wallet right here at home. Let's dive right in and connect the dots from these international summits straight to the checkout line at your local supermarket. First, we'll meet the BRICS Alliance and see who just joined. Second, we'll look at how they're controlling your food supply. Third, we'll break down de-dollarization and how it threatens your purchasing power. Fourth, we'll explore a massive new development, the BRICS Grain Exchange. And finally, we'll outline exactly what you need to watch next.
Section 1. Meet the BRICS Alliance. Now, a lot of people hear the term BRICS on the financial news and they immediately zone out. But you absolutely shouldn't, because they are actively positioning themselves as a rising rival to the Western financial order. Let's look at how we actually got here. The term was coined way back in 2001 by a British economist at Goldman Sachs named Jim O'Neill. It originally stood for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Basically, it was just a label for fast-growing emerging markets. But by 2009, these countries formalized into an actual geopolitical bloc, holding annual summits. Their stated goal? To challenge a Western-dominated global financial order, places like the IMF and the World Bank, and give emerging nations a bigger seat at the table. But 2023 and 2024, that changed everything. At their summit in South Africa in August 2023, they announced a historic expansion. By January 1, 2024, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE officially joined up. And the momentum didn't stop there. Early in 2025, Indonesia officially became their first Southeast Asian member. Reportedly, more than 30 other countries applied to join in 2024 alone. This thing is growing fast.
Take a look at the sheer economic weight this alliance now carries. In this breakdown of global GDP, BRICS now represents over 35%. They've officially surpassed the G7, which sits at around 30%. Think about that for a second. This is no longer just some small club of emerging economies getting together for coffee. This is a legitimate economic powerhouse that is actively shifting the center of global trade gravity away from the West.
And the numbers get even more staggering when you look at planetary resources. The expanded BRICS alliance now represents more than 45% of the entire world's population, and crucially, they control nearly 43% of global oil production. When an alliance controls nearly half the people on planet Earth, and nearly half the energy required to run it, well, they have massive, unprecedented leverage over global supply chains.
Section 2. Controlling your food supply.
While everyone focuses on oil and energy, there is a much quieter takeover happening in agriculture. This alliance doesn't just control the fuel in your car, they control the very ingredients on your dinner plate. The absolute crucial point here is this. Collectively, BRICS nations now produce 42% of the world's wheat, 52% of its rice, and 46% of its soybeans. Now, these aren't just minor specialty crops. Wheat goes into your bread, your pasta, your morning cereal. Soybeans go into your cooking oil, protein foods, and critically, the feed for the animals whose meat you buy at the deli counter. Rice feeds billions globally. Altogether, BRICS accounts for 45% of global agricultural production. They literally grow nearly half the world's food.
Let's break down the specific players because this brilliantly illustrates just how interconnected this alliance is. Russia is one of the world's largest wheat exporters. Brazil is the absolute dominant global supplier of soybeans. In fact, China gets 60% of its soybeans from Brazil alone. India is a massive exporter of rice. But it's the new members that make this alliance an absolute juggernaut. By bringing in the UAE in 2024, they added a major global food trading hub to the mix. By adding Egypt, they brought in one of the world's largest wheat importers, perfectly connecting BRICS suppliers to massive African food markets. And by adding Iran, they secured a highly significant player in fertilizer and petrochemical production. It's like a giant puzzle coming together.
So, let's see how this builds into a direct hit on your wallet.
Step 1. BRICS nations grow and trade your food's raw materials. Step 2. Because they control so much of the market, their internal policies effectively set global benchmark prices. Step 3. Those prices flow directly through commodity markets and hit U.S. supply chains. Step 4. American food manufacturers and retailers pass those rising costs right on to you at the store. Look, you might not buy a bag of rice directly from India, but when India restricted its rice exports back in 2023, global prices spiked instantly. That ripple effect makes its way into every single grocery store aisle in America. It's not some crazy conspiracy, it's just cold, hard economics.
Section 3. De-Dollarization and your prices. To really understand why BRICS doing all this agricultural trade matters to an American consumer, we have to zoom out for a second and look at the US dollar. You've probably heard this buzzword, but let's define it clearly. De-dollarization is the effort by countries to reduce global reliance on the US dollar for international trade. Right now, the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. A staggering 89% of all currency trading globally involves the US dollar. Oil is priced in dollars, wheat is priced in dollars. This gives America what economists like to call the exorbitant privilege. Because the whole world needs dollars to buy raw materials, the demand for the dollar stays permanently high. That keeps our dollar strong, and a strong dollar means Americans get much cheaper imports. BRICS, well, they want to end that privilege. And they are actively preparing for it. Look at this number, 1,045. That is the amount in metric tons of gold that central banks worldwide added to their reserves in 2024 alone. This actually marks the third straight year of gold purchases exceeding 1,000 tons. Countries around the world are aggressively hoarding gold as a hedge against dependency on the US dollar. They are stocking up.
And at the October 2024 Kazan Summit, BRICS members push forward something called BRICS Pay. This is a decentralized payment messaging system. Its entire purpose is to allow member nations to trade in their own local currencies, completely bypassing SWIFT, which is the Western-controlled global banking network. Now, to be completely fair, experts from institutions like the Atlantic Council and the Peterson Institute confirm the dollar is still totally dominant and isn't collapsing tomorrow. But
even a slow, partial de-dollarization has a profound impact on you. Here's the reality check. If global demand for the dollar drops because BRICS nations start trading oil and soybeans in yuan or local currencies, the US dollar gets weaker. A weaker dollar makes imports vastly more expensive, and since the US imports massive amounts of food ingredients, packaging materials, and agricultural inputs, guess who pays that higher cost? You do. It gets passed directly to you. In 2023, 1/5 of global oil trades were already conducted in non-dollar currencies, up from almost zero a decade ago. The shift is already happening right under our noses.
Section 4. The BRICS Grain Exchange. This is a development that almost nobody in the mainstream media is talking about clearly enough, and it's arguably the most direct threat to Western food pricing control in decades. At the 2024 Kazan Summit, BRICS members formally endorsed the creation of a BRICS Grain Exchange. The frustration driving this was perfectly captured by Russia's President Vladimir Putin, who said, quote, "All benchmark grain prices are set in the US and Europe. How much grain does France produce? Less than Russia, yet prices are still set there. Right now, global grain prices for wheat, corn, and soybeans are set on exchanges in Chicago and Paris. BRICS wants to take that power back."
And this brilliantly illustrates their endgame. On one side, you have the current system, Western exchanges with dollar-denominated pricing. On the other side, the BRICS Grain Exchange, local currency trading among BRICS members. Think of this as OPEC, but for food. Just as OPEC controls oil pricing by coordinating supply, a BRICS grain exchange could eventually dictate global grain prices. While experts note it'll take years to fully implement and there are absolutely internal disagreements to iron out, the fact that it was formally endorsed means it is past its first major political hurdle. It's moving from an idea to an institution.
Section 5. What to watch next? So how do all these massive macro trends translate into the numbers you actually see on your grocery receipts right now? Let's start with the pain you're already feeling. U.S. food prices at grocery stores rose a staggering 24% between January 2020 and January 2023. We saw a brief slowdown after that, but as of early 2026, U.S. food and beverage company inflation surged again to 7.9% year over year in March. That was the biggest jump in at least 12 months. The pressure on your budget is just relentless.
And it's being driven by massive interconnected supply chain pressures. Look at fertilizer costs. They are out of control. Urea, which is the most widely used nitrogen fertilizer, roughly doubled in price recently, hitting around $900 per metric ton. A survey by the American Farm Bureau Federation actually found 70% of farmers say fertilizer is so expensive they can't even buy all they need. Then you have energy costs.
The World Bank expects global energy prices to jump roughly 24% in 2026. Energy powers the farm equipment, the transport, the refrigeration. As a result of all this, U.S. farm bankruptcies are climbing for a third consecutive year. Less supply means higher prices. And geopolitically, with Iran now in BRICS and tensions disrupting the Strait of Hormuz, where a third of global fertilizer trade passes, fertilizer prices are projected to rise another 31%. All of that hits American farmers and subsequently your wallet. It's a perfect storm.
So going forward, here are the 4 crucial things you need to keep an eye on. Number 1, Saudi Arabia's BRICS decision. If they officially join, BRICS will control an enormous share of global oil supply, and oil prices dictate food transportation costs. Number 2, BRICS Pay adoption rates. Watch how many nations actually start using this system for real transactions. It's a huge indicator of dollar erosion. Number 3, the BRICS grain exchange timeline. If this becomes operational, raw material costs for U.S. food manufacturers could shift wildly. And number 4, U.S. tariffs and trade responses. President Trump stated in July 2025 that BRICS was set up to hurt us. Expect escalating trade tensions and counter tariffs that could disrupt supply chains even further.
Look, none of this means you need to panic. The US dollar is still dominant, our food supply is largely self-sufficient in a lot of areas, and the BRICS bloc has very real internal divisions. But dismissing this expansion as irrelevant, that would be a huge mistake. The commodity control is real, the slow erosion of dollar dominance is a real trend, and the connection between global geopolitics and your grocery bill is direct. So I want to leave you with this. What grocery item has hit your budget the hardest lately?
Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. It really helps the channel grow. I'll see you in the next one.